When we think of 50-50 custody, let's really think about who this really benefits. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate in the comments, but this is true, and it's very true to me. I've been through it 2 times over, and I can actually tell you that this benefits the parents more than it does the children. If you're new here, my name is Brittany. I'm a healing empowerment coach for co-parents, and I teach parents just like you how to take their power back and change the foundation within the home. Listen up. So I want you to really think about, and this is for parents who do have 50-50 custody, okay? Hear and listen to your child. If they come home constantly and they tell you from the other parent's house or vice versa that they hate the way the dynamic is, okay? I know there's a lot of parents out there who won't admit this, but there's a lot of children who will actually open up to you and say, hey, mom or dad, I hate the way things are. I hate shifting from house to house. I'd hate having to change rules all the time. It gives me anxiety. And if you're just going to continue to ignore it and say, well, this is the best situation that we can do, you're not benefiting your child at all. You're not. And it's the truth of the matter is 50-50 is always, always, always for the parents. Yes, I can agree that it would be so difficult to have anything other than 50-50, but sometimes you have to really shift yourself in the foundation of your home to do what's best for your children, especially if they're dealing with anxiety, especially if you have a high conflict ex. You need to look at what is the best interest of my child. I know this all too well because I have 50-50 with my middle daughter's dad, and literally 7 years ago, you could have never told me that I'm about to do what I'm going to do. Mind you, me and my ex were very high conflict for many years. We have now turned parallel, and we've actually built like a really strong foundation because we've changed communication. But I've listened to my daughter over and over and over again, her telling me that she hated switching from house to house. And to be super honest, knowing my ex, he would never go for changing the schedule unless I lowered some of my standards for myself. What does that mean? So I actually we are transitioning next year to basically, I'm going to have all the holidays. I'm going to have the summertime because I'm going to be moving anyway. So it makes sense. And then he's going to be having most of the school year, but I'm also going to have like extended weekends. Like we're still making it a 50-50 thing, but we're changing up the schedule because this is going to benefit our daughter. Our daughter is dealing with a lot of issues with going from, dad's house. Here's an example. The school is across the street from my house, but dad lives 30 minutes away. So can you imagine what that's doing to her every single morning? Like having to wake up extra early, having to eat earlier, just literally like just dealing with so much anxiety on the way to school. It's just not fair. Being in a co-parenting relationship doesn't always mean you're going to get your way. Doesn't always mean that you have to benefit yourself. Sometimes you have to look at the outside of things and really look at your child and figure out what's the best for them.
Look, 50-50 custody is a sensitive topic for a lot of people, and I get that, but here are my thoughts on it. All right, if you suck at communicating with each other and are always constantly bickering and fighting, but you feel like the child is not in danger when they're with the other parent, then just do 50-50. But if you want to be an adult and you want to communicate effectively and you really care about what's best for the kids, 50-50 is not always the best option. It's not always what's best for the kids. A lot of people jump to 50-50, I feel like, because they feel like that's what they deserve. But this shit is not about you. It's not about what you deserve. It's about what's best for the kids. And so my kids currently, during the week, they stay with their mom because that's where they get on the bus to go to school. We agreed that it's better for the kids to have consistency with their school schedule and just making sure things are better for them, that they stay there during the week and they're with me every weekend. And during the summertime, we did 1 week on, 1 week off. We do what makes sense based on our kids' schedules and what's going on in our lives, not what we feel like we deserve. And I still see my kids during the week. I take them to practice and, appointments and things like that. So I still see my kids during the week because we're trying to do what's best for the kids. Don't go jump into 50-50 custody or time before you've assessed the situation. Assess first, then decide what's best. That's just my 2 cents.
A couple of months ago, I did a video titled Men Regretting Full Custody of Their Children. And I just feel like there should be a follow-up video because that one was heavily focused on men and their reactions once the children were in their custody full time or most of the time. Now, this one, I want us to look more at how this affects the children because that's exactly what it's about. I've got my own opinions on this topic, but I'll share them later on. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Maxine, and if you're a returning viewer and subscriber, welcome back.
Why a 50-50 split of custody isn't always best. In a lot of cases, child custody is split 50-50 between each parent. However, there are some cases in which this is not the best scenario. And in these cases, an uneven split is recommended because number one parent may not have the time to focus on the child. Number two, one of the parents is battling addiction. Number three, a parent is not taking their responsibilities seriously. Number four, a parent's work schedule might not allow it. And number five, one of the parents may want to relocate. Whatever the case may be, a judge will make a decision based on the best interests of the child. And sometimes that's not always a 50-50 even split.
And I completely agree. I don't think there should be any such thing as 50-50 custody. What I think should happen is shared custody. 50-50 custody, I don't know how that can even work because there is going to come a time when one parent might need to call on the other, and that will go outside of their 50-50 arrangement. And I'm hoping that it would not be a problem to the other parent to say, okay, it's a child, so it's my child, so here I am, I'm available, you know? Not saying that the other parent should abuse the situation because they know that the other one is always going to agree. But I do think shared custody to me sounds way better than 50-50 custody because sometimes it's going to have to be 80-20 custody. Sometimes it's going to have to be 40-60 custody. It's whatever works in the best interest of the child while allowing you to have your own life if you choose to go in separate ways.
A lot of times, it just might not be in your kid's best interest to see dad half the time. And if you agree to 50-50, then you're really putting yourself in a hole because once dad can say you already agreed to it, especially if it's a formal court order where you agree, but even if it's not, it's kind of a weird look to then suddenly say, oh, but she no longer agrees. All of a sudden, she hired a family law attorney and no longer in kid's best interest, right? We'd rather get ahead of this situation because you don't want to agree knowing that dad's not a capable parent because then it's a little bit harder. Something has to happen then for us to show there's been a change in circumstances why it's no longer in your kid's best interest. Now, I'm not trying to dissuade you from getting legal advice no matter where you are in this journey, but if you haven't agreed to this 50-50 yet, hold off until you get the advice of counsel. You know, if you have a situation where dad is abusing substances, is mentally unstable, where his behavior is having a negative impact on your kids, that's a big reason why maybe he shouldn't have 50-50 custody. Something you really want to think about before you just agree to it. Especially, you know, if you have really little kids that can't speak up for themselves, you know, you're not going to know what's going on with dad.
It can't be just me that thinks that 50-50 equal shared custody should be the default. It would solve so many problems, including the main problem of money, because why would fathers need to pay child maintenance, child support, if they're having their child 50% of the time? I literally just don't understand why this isn't the go-to default that courts set 50-50, unless there's some sort of safeguarding issue, unless there's some sort of abuse, like on either side, that would make one parent not suitable for having 50-50. But otherwise, why shouldn't the dad have the kid 50% of the time and the mum have the kid 50% of the time? Like, I don't understand how this isn't the default, and it would just solve so many problems, and it would be in the best interest of the child, which is what everyone says it should be about all the time. This weird notion that dads should only see their children every other weekend and maybe like one night in the week or birthdays and Christmases if they're lucky is just insanity. Like, imagine if you were a child and you lived full time with your mother and your father, right? They're happy, well, happy-ish, and everything's going fine. And then all of a sudden they get divorced. You don't really understand what's going on, but you get to see your mother 90% of the time and your father only 10% of the time when you're used to seeing him every single day. How does that work? I just think that there needs to be a serious discussion about this in government, and it should be being pushed 50-50 unless there is a really good reason not. Do you agree with me in the comments? Let me know what you think. And as always, everyone have a great day. There is no sun here at the moment, which I'm very distressed about.
I actually don't agree. I don't think it's as simple as saying it should be 50-50 straight down the middle and that's how it goes. How does that even work? There are 365 days in the year, so that cannot be split equally. That I know. There are 7 days in the week that cannot be split equally either. There's always going to be a little bit of imbalance, a little bit of expectation of giving and taking. If the parents are willing to support each other to make the child's life what it should be, the best that it can be, I think that's the greatest solution. If the dad has to work away or if the mom has to work away, I think either parent should be happy and willing to step in and cover those times when the other parent has to go away. If the child stays in school, that's something to consider, because what do you do? If you get a job opportunity, of course you need to pay your bills, right? If you got training abroad, if you need to do something, how does 50-50 work in those situations? That's why I think shared custody is what it should be. And shared custody shouldn't always have to go to court. It really should be parents coming together, being mature and doing what's best for their children. If you see that the child needs something and you can afford to, but the other parent can't, why wouldn't you want to offer that to the child when they're with you? How can it actually just be as simple and as black and white as 50-50? I just cannot see it.
Is a 50-50 shared custodial arrangement always what's best for the kids in a custody and visitation case? Short answer, no, it isn't. Now, in a perfect world, could it? Should it be? Yes. But many of these situations, you don't have both people, both parents, equally engaged with the children. And sometimes you have two parents that just can't co-parent and don't get along. In those sorts of cases, 50-50 circumstances are not what's best for the kids.
A young kid should not be taken away from the mom, period. I don't care if the dad wants custody or what's fair. Unless the mom is a drug addict, she should have the kid because the kid needs mom. They need a nurturing mother when they are slowly growing up, especially when they are under 5, when they're young as shit. When they start to become like teen years, especially boys, they need dad. They need that stern, strict rule in the household. So 50-50 custody of like what's fair, this is fair for us, I think is a stupid conversation. It should be less about what's fair for the parents and it should be more about what's better for our children.
100%.
Applied so much pressure, not so much aggro, not so much toxicity around it. I feel like when you take a bit of that fear away from them, the threat starts to, and I do see it as a threat.
Really?
Yeah, I do see it as a threat because I feel like if you do not have a job that allows you to do it, if you're getting your mum to come and do it all the time, if you don't have the means to have them 50% of the time, you are seeing it as a threat.
So yeah, that's something that I wanted to ask, because I feel like we get a lot of people that maybe reach out to us and they're like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to end this marriage or relationship because I can't bear the thought of having my kids 50-50 and I know that he'll push for it. If they are in a job that cannot accommodate for them to be around, will they get 50-50 if they push for it?
Well, I can't, that's a really wide question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need way more details. It's not just based on the job.
It's the individual case.
I think the most frustrating part for me is when you hear, for me, the men that push for 50-50, but you know that when they've got them, that 50% of the time, majority of the time, they'll be with his parents.
That was
he's at work.
another question. That was one of the questions there.
Does that not hold any firm?
Here you go. Yeah, read the next question.
It says, what do I do if my ex is making his mum fulfill court-ordered time when I can reasonably do it?
Okay, so if I have a situation whereby that's happening, before, when I'm in court, I might want to put recitals or orders in place which state that I'm first right of refusal. Okay?
Yes.
So what's that mean?
So basically that you ask me before you give the children to somebody else for, maybe if you're going to be away for 24 hours or more than 7 hours or something like that, you ask me first rather than somebody else. Say in this situation we don't have that and we've had the court order and now he's giving all responsibility to grandmother. Obviously that is not okay. There has to be a reasonable acceptance of time being spent with grandparents or a partner or whatever, because his time also allocates for time to be spent with the paternal side of the family.
It's my right to have 50-50. No, it's not your right to have 50-50. And in actual fact, it's not your right to have any amount of contact. It's your child's right. It's called the Children's Act, not the Parents' Act. And you need to stop treating your child like a possession. Stop using your child as leverage to get to your ex. It's your child's right to have a meaningful relationship with both parents if and only if it's in their best interests. And even then, that does not automatically equate to an equal division of their...
My concern is that by the time both parents get to the 50-50 situation in court, they're both so angry at each other that they forget that what's important is what's in the best interest of the child. And now it becomes a battle against each other on which one can be more spiteful, which one can show that they're a better parent and in a better position. Meanwhile, it'd be so much easier if you just work together, try to help each other out and create balance for that child. That's just my opinion on the matter, and I will say that until the end of time. I think no good can come from a child seeing both parents at loggerheads. I think both parents, I'm going to say this over and over again, needs to be in a position or in a state of mind where they say, when it comes to my child, I am always going to step in. If something comes up and you need me, you let me know, and I'm there. Because it's my child.
Popular opinion, but 50-50 custody does not work for every child. And now, I don't have children yet, but my credentials are I am a divorce attorney who has had clients with 50-50 that has worked and clients with 50-50 that has completely failed. And the biggest reason why 50-50 doesn't work for a lot of people, I would say the vast majority it does not work for it, is because there is always one parent who is just doing it to spite the other parent. They don't really have a close relationship with the kids, and their main objective is really to get on the other parent's nerves. Now, of course, there can be amicable situations where each parent wants the best for the kids, but in most cases I have seen that is not the case. It's usually done in spite. But if you have a 50-50 custody arrangement and it works for you, let me know. And if you will just never agree to it, definitely let us know in the comments.
Can someone make it make sense why so many single moms are complaining about doing it all, even though they don't allow the dads to have 50-50 custody? Make it make sense. Y'all will fight tooth and nail for the amount of child support that you get because you've reduced your children down to a freaking paycheck, but you won't fight for quality time for the fathers to have with your children, even though that's more important. There are so many women on this app that are complaining about how much they do and how tired they are and how bad it is, and oh my god, that they have it worse to be the custodial parent, but they won't give them to the father. They won't give 50-50. In court, they fought for the fathers to have less time, so you basically created the entire situation and now you're mad about it. It's common sense. If you don't want the workload, if you don't want to be a single mother, if you don't want to do it all, if you're tired, if you're burnt out, give them to the father. And if the father is not around enough, ask yourself why you decided to have a child with someone like that. And have some accountability with that. Some of y'all want to play victim so freaking bad to situations that you created and then blame the dads for either not being involved enough. Meanwhile, you've kept the children from them. And you claim that that's in the best interest of the children, knowing damn well that it's not. Some of you are so spiteful and resentful because you picked the wrong person and figured it out later on that you literally withhold the children and you're keeping yourselves from your own single life or reliving your 20s or whatever hoe phase you want to do. You don't realize that if you just were fair in the first place, you wouldn't be so freaking miserable. Okay, bye.
And I think that some parents just actually don't want to see the other one with anybody else. And as soon as the other one starts dating, then all of a sudden they start using the child as leverage. You will not see my child. You will not be introducing my child to somebody else. You will not be doing this. You will not be doing that. People use this thing as a control method, and it should not be. Because while you're using the child in a tug-of-war situation, the only person who's getting hurt here and getting traumatized is the child, and I hate it. Yes, I know that you've got a life and it took two of you to make the child or the children, but at the end of the day, unions break. If the relationships don't work, they don't work, but the child remains both of yours. Whatever the case may be, I'm always going to say, if you can support the other parent to make the child's life easier, you should do that. Not saying that the other parent should feel entitled, but if you feel like in some way you can relieve the pressure, or in whatever way, I'm not talking about financially, if you can relieve the pressure of the other parent, if it's even for a certain time, if it's for a week or for a month or whatever, I think that you should be happy to do it. Life is not linear. Life happens, you know. Parents die, parents get divorced, parents move countries, all kinds. Sometimes we have the best plans in the world and they change. But once that small human comes into play, start working it out together.
All right, let's speed run 5 of the most common arguments I hear against equal shared parenting, 50-50 custody. If you're not following yet, hit the follow button because I do videos like this all the time talking about how equal shared parenting is the best thing for kids. Number 1, I'm the better parent. Let me ask you, are kids entitled to the best parent or are they entitled to their parent? If they're entitled to their parent, it doesn't matter which one of you was better during the marriage. If they're entitled to the best parent, maybe I'm better than both of y'all. Let me throw my name in the hat, right? Kids aren't entitled to the best parent, they're entitled to their parent. Number 2, 50-50 won't work because it's too many transitions for the kids. The average custody schedule right now, the Friday night special, as it's sometimes called, involves sometimes 12 transitions a month. Friday afternoon, Sunday evening, or Monday morning, a Wednesday evening dinner that happens every week, and then the next weekend you repeat that again. Most 50-50 schedules only have half as many of those transitions. An exchange Monday, and then another exchange the next Monday. Or even if you're doing a 2-2-3 or a 2-2-5 schedule, you'll get 4 or maybe 6 transitions in a month compared to the 12 from traditional schedules. It's not too many transitions. Number 3, kids need their primary attachment figure. Besides the fact that most of the time this argument comes from people who have no problem putting their kids in daycare for 40 hours a week with rotating caregivers working 2 different shifts a day, most of the time the people who use this term don't actually know what modern research says about this. Most modern research says that primary attachment can happen with more than one caregiver. The kids can be attached to mom and just as well attached to dad. So the term primary attachment, as it's often heard, is usually based on bad or outdated research. Number 4, I can't trust the kids with mom or dad in the future because they don't help as much as I would like them to now, and past actions are indicative of future behaviors, right? We hear this all the time too. Obviously, sometimes this is true, yes. But I think at our core, a lot of us know that this is not true in every case because, here's the example, he used to be your knight in shining armor, or she used to be the girl of your dreams, right? Her past behavior clearly did not hold up because now you guys are getting a divorce. Some new variable was introduced to the relationship, you, and then the behavior changed. Maybe if we take that variable back out of that relationship, they'll actually become a better father or parent or whatever. Just a thought. And number 5, kids need a place where they can feel at home. Usually people are talking about this, meaning they need their stuff. Let me ask you, do you feel most at home sleeping next to the person you love or sleeping next to your nightstand? Obviously, it's nice to sleep in your own bed, but we know that most of the time we feel most at home with the people that we love, not with the stuff that we're around. As long as both parents love the kids and are fit, willing, and able to nurture that relationship with them, the children should not be punished by having one of those relationships removed from their life.
Oh yeah, and before I forget this point, the other thing that I don't like, and I see it so many times among parents who are either divorced or separated and they've got children, stop talking down the other parent. Stop doing it. It is never ever healthy to be telling your child that your dad is a this or your mom is a that. Because like that man just said, at one point they were your knight in shining armor or they were your princess of some kind. Whatever opinions you've got of your ex-partner, don't offload it onto the children. It's none of their business. What you need to do is create a safe and healthy environment for them. Nothing annoys me more than hearing one parent ripping into the other one to the child. Who didn't ask for any of this in the first place?
There's this thought process, especially when it comes to judges, that kids need to be with both parents and that custody should always be split 50-50. I'm going to tell you why that can be extremely dangerous for the child. There are narcissists going into courts every single day and putting on a show for them. They are acting as if they actually care about their kid when they haven't called or visited in years. They sit beside their fancy little lawyer that they're paying pretty but haven't paid a dime in child support. And they're also making false claims about the mother of their child, and it's absolute slander. In most of these cases, the mother has been the only one that's been there for the child every single day through the good and the bad. Not just when they feel like being a parent, not when she needs a picture for social media to pretend that she's an actual parent, not to impress her new supply. No. Every single day, she steps it up and makes it happen for her kid all by herself. And a judge has the nerve to even consider 50-50. Children don't need fathers in their life unless they are healthy, safe, consistent, and actually have their best interest at heart. Let's start looking at facts before we slam that gavel down. And I already know the comments. The genders can be reversed. I am talking for the majority that no one seems to talk for. There are millions more women dealing with this than men. You want the conversation to be about single fathers? Please go ahead and do so. You make those videos. I'm gonna make mine in honor of my own single mom.
Is paying a child support obligation fair in a 50-50 shared custodial arrangement? In my opinion, no, and here's why. Remember, child support is not meant to even out incomes. Child support is meant for food, clothing, and shelter for the children. So theoretically, if you each have the child half of the time, you're each paying half of the expenses. Tell me what you think in the comments.
Ooh, this is my topic. When a dad asks for 50-50 custody, why do people assume it's about avoiding child support? Child support is not determined solely around custody. It's actually around income. And the more income a person has, you can have an equal time sharing schedule and still have a situation where you owe child support. So I think it's just a mindset that people have about men sometimes that make them think that because they don't know anybody.
I didn't want to focus too heavily on the financial side, although I know that is the greatest part of any relationship, of anything that you do in life. If you don't have money, you can't do anything. Unless you're going to live in the woods and live like a bear. I don't know. But especially when you've got children, money is so vital. Money is so important. And especially if you're in a situation where you are a stay-at-home mom and then all of a sudden things didn't work out and you didn't get to go to school, you didn't get to have a job, you didn't get to put yourself in a position where you aren't earning as much as the father who always had the opportunity to better himself and to go to work and to earn more and to save more. I can understand the resentment from that. So I do understand that money plays the biggest role, but let's not forget about the other things that the child needs or the children.
50-50 custody does not automatically guarantee no child support. Is there a possibility for you not to pay child support? Yes, but it's not automatic. And depending on the judge you get and depending on the jurisdiction that you're in, there may be some things that you have to put in writing in order for you to secure a 50-50 custody with no child support. Please go for 50-50 custody for the right reasons, because you truly want to be engaged. You want to be a part of your child's life and you want to be equally there like the other parent is.
Creator on this app that doesn't allow you to stitch, respond, or anything to their videos. And I probably know why, because they make blanket statements when it comes to people in their divorce and custody situations. She was making a comment about the 50-50 schedule that's like a 2-3, right? 2 days on, 3 days off. That's the type of schedule that I have. And my kids are all in school. And if you were to ask my kids what they prefer, they'd look at me like the one we have now. Here's the thing. When you make blanket statements when it comes to custody situations, and to say it's insane or it's insanity, who made you the expert on someone else's life? It is a case-by-case scenario. The thing about this video that she was like 2-3 schedules benefit the parent, how? Because 2-3 is a pain in the ass. And it's so that your kids can have access to both parents during that week. It is not for your convenience at all. You still miss your kids no matter what. My kids are gone for a day and I'm like devastated. Some kids don't want week on, week off. Some kids may prefer week on, week off. They're your kids. You figure it out. If I was purely thinking of myself only, I would definitely go with like a week on, week off. Life was never meant to be a convenience. Parenthood was never meant to be a convenience. I have a high conflict situation. Ideally, I don't want to do these exchanges every other day, but my kids prefer that. For my kids' sake, because divorce sucks and they didn't ask for that, then I am going to make as little impact as possible when it comes to what parent they're with at any given time.
Right, check this out and let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys.
My point is, if she makes the decision to leave, she should pay for it. If you want to leave, that's totally fine, but you should pay to raise your kid.
Is it not his child as well?
And he should pay for the time. That's why I said 50-50 custody off the bat, no child support, no alimony.
So she gets to take on all of the childcare responsibilities, but he doesn't have to like pay anything. He doesn't have to have any buy-in.
I didn't say all. I said 50-50 custody. He should have the kid half the time.
But doesn't have to pay any money towards it.
No, he should pay for the kid when the kid's at his house.
Okay, and so the majority of the time when the kid is at the mother's house, he doesn't have to be involved in any way financially?
No, she should pay for it. She has a job. Why should he have to pay for a kid?
He should support it.
If she chose to have the kid and she chooses divorce, why should she not have to pay for her own decision? That's the thing. See, there it is. You want all the freedom to do whatever you want, but you don't want to have to pay for it. I mean, men are 9.
And here's the thing, guys, right? 50-50. Why is it not the standard? You know, these are questions that we should be asking. You know, a child has two parents, and that child has the right to have a relationship with both parents, essentially. Now, sadly, though, for some parents, it becomes more about the financial side than it is about the relationship that a child has with the other parent. And sadly, you know, it's the children who suffer in circumstances like this. Now, if a father is providing not only for his home financially, but financially paying for his child, and also then taking care of his child 50% of the time, which is 50-50, then the mother has the responsibility to provide for her home and for the child when the child's in her care. Now, again, guys, we're going to have some really in-depth conversations like this going on over at Across the Pond on a new podcast, which is coming soon. So check it out.
I will forever say it cannot be as straight down the middle as it's 50-50. There you go. Okay, so say two parents have 50-50 custody of the children, and one parent fall ill, significantly ill. Say they have been diagnosed with cancer or something and they need to go do treatment, chemotherapy or radiotherapy or whatever, 3 times a week or however many times a week or whatever. And the time that they're due to have their children falls within those time. Why is it unfair to ask the other parent who is not ill to step in, even though that would mean him going into more than 50% of what custody you is given? If the parent is unwell or they meet some kind of misfortune, why is it difficult? Why is it unheard of for the other person to step up? This is why I will never agree with 50-50, because life is not that straightforward. People lose jobs. People get ill. Life just keeps changing, you know? So 50-50, it sounds good. It sounds fair. But what are you supposed to do? What is a child supposed to do if the mom or the dad is having chemotherapy and they're significantly unwell and they simply haven't got the energy some days? Because if you know anybody who's had cancer, you know sometimes after they've had their chemotherapy treatment, they've got days after where they can't even stand up. If you've got a child in those circumstances, because life is not going to promise you that just because you have a child, you're not going to have cancer. So what do you do in that situation? Should we just say, these are the stipulations, it's 50-50, I couldn't care less if your leg's falling off or you can't stand up, it is your turn? Should never be 50-50. Shared custody all the way.
If you're a mother and you're worried about seeking primary custody because you heard that the courts are always doing 50-50, so you might as well agree to 50-50, I want you to really think about that. If you know in your heart that your kids are going to suffer detriment with dad, you might want to consider asking for more than 50% time with your kids. And potentially it's something that the dad will agree to, right? Maybe you think he wants 50-50 and maybe he doesn't. You just don't want to call it 50-50, but maybe we want to frame it a little different way, but still get to the same end goal of you having more than 50% time with your kids, because maybe you want to do all the drop-ups and pick-ups at school because you're the one that makes sure your kids get their homework done. Or maybe you have a really tiny child and you're still breastfeeding. It's a really nuanced case-by-case analysis. And so I don't want you to just think because everyone else is saying it's going to be 50-50, you just have to agree to that. Or if dad is trying to strong-arm you into 50-50, you just have to agree to it. You need to meet with a family law attorney to decide what's really best for your situation, because it's not just a numbers game either. It's about creating a parenting schedule that's going to show what days and times the kids are with who based on the best interest of your child, their extracurriculars, what's really going on in your life.
I'm appalled every day when I talk to potential clients and hear some of the things that have happened in their case. Lawyers who have, recently appointed lawyers who have not been involved in family court at all are being appointed as GALs, who have no training in child development or mental health or coercive control, domestic abuse. They don't know anything about any of that. And they're just going to come in and represent the child. And you're going to suggest that a baby be 50-50? That baby is going to spend 50% of its time with each parent? attachment theory. Hello. The mother is the baby's primary attachment. That's just nature. That's how it works. That mother grew the baby. That mother feeds the baby with her body. Like, fathers have to build that bond. They have to spend time with that baby. They have to do all those things, even if they're still together with the mother. Like, they have to do those things to create that bond. But that primary attachment has to be there in order to support the other. When it's just like, here I'm with my primary attachment here, and then all of a sudden I'm over here and I don't have that, so that I know that this is safe. Like, it just, I shudder to think of what the studies are going to show about what this is doing to our kids in 10 or 20 years. Like, it's disgusting. And if you're a father in that circumstance and you're going about seeking 50-50 custody because it's your right and it's your baby, well, good job. You helped make a baby. But now you need to respect that baby's needs and what it needs for healthy development. And, you know, that might be a little inconvenient for you for a little while. You might have to, you know, spend the day with your baby and then take it back to its mother so it can foster that sense of security and start to build that relationship with you. But expecting, it's so frustrating. And it's frustrating that the courts just keep doing this. So I'm checking out.
This is a conversation that's going to go on forever, and probably nobody will ever agree on what is right and what is wrong. Because like I said, it's individual circumstances. It is not a one size fit all. It isn't.
Let's go into family court. Do you think that custody should be 50-50 off the bat?
Like physical, or there's different kinds of custody?
Child custody.
Like who they live with or who makes legal decisions for them?
Yeah, 50-50 off the bat.
So those are two different things, but I think that it is going to be a nuanced discussion and based on family dynamics.
Okay. But in general, if there's no abuse or anything crazy like that, 50-50 off the bat as a starting point.
I think that every case should be taken into account from its individual and nuanced perspective.
But I'm asking for a starting point, 50-50 custody off the bat.
I think that each partner should be looked at equitably and there should be no discrimination towards either.
One parent wants to work more, totally fine, they can work that out. Off the bat, 50-50 custody, no child support, no alimony.
Yeah, and I disagree.
Looking at the welfare of the child when making decisions about that child's future is not biased. That is in the child's best interests. If a court was to leap straight into a 50-50 arrangement without looking at whether that's in the child's best interests, that would not be good, safe decision making on behalf of that child. There is something called the welfare checklist, and you will find that in section 1.3, so section 1, subsection 3 of the Children Act 1989. And that sets out 7 categories that have to be looked at in considering what's in the child's best interests. And that can include things like the child's wishes and feelings according to their age and understanding, the capacity of the parents to meet the child's needs, any harm that they have suffered or they're at risk of suffering. So look into that. It's not 50-50 automatically for a reason.
Guess what? We have come to the end of the video. If you've made it this far, thank you for sticking it out with me. I am very interested to hear your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to share the video. And yeah, I will see you again in my next one. Now for the editing. Bye.